Welcome to this programme Shiaght Laa. I'm Fiona McCardle. Sé Fiona McCardle Mish, as bevile am Goltacha Shúk as a Clare Show Shiaght Laa. Well, Shiaght Laa and Shiacht Show, Hop Tune. Shiaght Laa has been broadcast on the very evening of this uniquely Manx tradition, and we hear more about that from James Franklin of Culture Vannin. As an Cooish, Jinu Erdelia Jane Hilk, and the Cooish Festival celebrating the Manx language. That'll be starting next Wednesday morning, the 6th of November, so we hear from Angrenida, Ruth Keggin Gell, about that. As we heard in Shiaght Laa last time, Culture Vannin would like to evaluate the strength of the Hop Tune tradition. Anecdotally, it seems to be going strong, and no doubt evolving, as living traditions do. After hearing from Culture Vannin's online and educational resources officer James Franklin last time, I hope you've got a sheet of paper to jot down some details of the Hop Tune callers. This will form the baseline so people can see how Hop Tune continues and evolves over the next 25, 50 or 100 years. Sa neu hyd bladen jeg, ren William Harrison, screw McCown Hop Tune, ons nain jane a lioren hug e cújach aslie and chejach vananach. Ons a lior te cur dain leis pyren de linnachen, red tandera linna gol tajach leis Hop Tune, as a farilla leis trollale. Ach ta uluna linnachen ella ons burl. Ta A.W. Moore Gymre de rennen cara ega, olu John Rees, Chimsacha a ren ons jassen ellen, as linnachan ons gilcon. Spastach nach velioch cus veg de linnachan regedden, as lugshen, hadodden persoon cur cunjuchten na linnachan elle. Na jij shen, hug moors jach versioen as de linna as feed, ons sa gielen ega, je a rennen as bannigan gilgach. Ren Lee John Clegg chimsacha versioen as she linnachan as feed on, as va shen clouch ons cunjuchten manenach. As I mentioned earlier, James Franklin of Culture Vannin is asking people to record their Hop Tune experiences this year for a baseline study. Bob Carswell asked him more about Hop Tune.
The tradition of Hop Tune seems to be very widely spread still round the island, and in fact there are variations in the different songs as well. So do we know how many different songs are now sung and where people are learning them?
The story of the songs of Hop Tune is wonderful in that there are so many, and I think whenever anyone has conversations with friends about what the song is, normally it will begin with, oh, you know, I sing the normal song, and then they'll demonstrate it, and normally the reaction is, that's not the normal song. And you work out that there's so many variations. I was speaking to someone in Castletown only last week, and they had a new version of the song to me, which I'd never heard before. And this happens most times that I speak to people outside of my own community. And these days, the songs will always be said to be traditional, but the question is where. Where is it traditional to, or to whom is it traditional, or where has it come from? Often these are learnt within families or from friends of the families. Sometimes they're learnt in schools, perhaps sometimes they're learnt off the internet and the like. And happily, Culture Vannin does have resources. If you don't know the Hop Tune song, please do go on and find out. But they're also developing. The Hop Tune song is something which has not come from one single source and then varied. Really, this is something of a song which has always been improvised and varied and changed. It's a part of the tradition, and so we should embrace the differences and feel very pleased that they are there.
These days, with whatever other words that people sing, quite often the song comes back to Ginny the Witch. It seems to be very much widespread, but it's widespread a lot further than just the Isle of Man as well.
We've chatted to people off the island, and they sometimes say that they have mentions of Ginny the Witch and their traditions. And it's wonderful to think that perhaps the song is going abroad, or perhaps there's influences coming in from abroad into our own song. But the Ginny the Witch element to the Manx song goes back over 100 years. But we can see in the recorded versions that it's always varying. It didn't just appear one day as Ginny the Witch going over the house to lather the mouse. It's something which has varied over time as Jenny the Squinny, Ginny the Squinny, Ginny the Whinny, things like this. It's always a fascinating story with the songs, and that's something which we hope to monitor going forward.
Another aspect of traditions at this time of year is people dressing up. To what extent does that feature in the Manx tradition?
Dressing up is an interesting one. There are records of it back 100 or so years ago, but there aren't many. And I think it's an open question as to why people would have dressed up when they did and why people are dressing up now. And perhaps this point might be a broken tradition. Maybe we're dressing up now because of outside influences, even though 100 years ago we would be dressing up, but for indigenous reasons here from the Isle of Man.
If we think of this then as a Celtic tradition, what evidence is there for it in the other Celtic countries?
Well, it's wonderful to look at the kind of harvest traditions and this point in the year in our neighbours around about. And it's very interesting to see how it's marked and celebrated, particularly in countries like Ireland and Scotland, where there are elements which almost look identical, but are strangely different. And I think that's the great thing about traditions, is that of course they're never isolated. They're always feeding in and feeding from other countries and other areas and becoming richer for it. And I think that's a thing which sometimes we should recognise about Manx traditions, is that of course they show our connections to our neighbours around about, but they're also, in their uniqueness and in their unique combination and the way they manifest, something distinctive about the Isle of Man, and they're things which we should hold on to and be very proud of, because other people will be looking in thinking, goodness me, that's so different to what we do, and this is very, very interesting. And I think it's nice to reflect back at times on what special things we do have, like Hoptune.
Gormaimora.
Jane.
James Franklin, the Online and Educational Resources Officer for Culture Vannin, talking about a tradition of this very evening, Hoptune.
Having talked to James about the fact that there are different versions of the Hoptune song, the Hoptune Banag, round the island, let's hear just some of them now. But as we also talked about there, the figure of Ginny the Witch now comes into them, although there's no mention of her in what was collected in the 19th century. We'll start with the version noted down by Dr. John Clegg in his Cooish Manx. All the lines start with Hoptune, but I'll leave that out, and I'll give you a running translation of the lines that seem to hang together. Nach I hauna, merach les sauna. Tonight is the eve of Hollantide. Tomorrow is the day of Hollantide. I'm saying Hollantide, well, sauna isn't the Christian season. Kellach is kjark, shiver a gownie. Crane gowan gowmage, and gowan beg breck. Cock and hen, the supper of the heifer. Which heifer shall we take? The little speckled heifer. Kerre once a fot, vlees me and vroch, scald me muscornach. A quarter in the pot, I tasted the broth, I scalded me throat. Rye me as a chiver, dew me my high. I ran to the well, I drank me fill. Esh chitna yai, veech me polecat, ren eskrither, ren me rye. Then, coming after, or coming back, I met a polecat. It scratched, I ran. Rye me gus nalben, cré naich lun shen, and chiech vertrouw, na klein verklei. I ran to Scotland. What news there? The plough was ploughing, the harrows were harrowing. Va benne gier a keisha, and skin va gear, yeri a mare, llappy sa chluj, glassy a sa choir, ren is stock a store. There was a young woman cutting cheese. The knife was sharp. She cut her finger. She wrapped it in the cloth. She locked it in the chest. It made stock and store. Three kirry keer weg William o. 3 brown sheep had William the grandson. And then it finishes off with a separate little piece. But the shukurveg dow corre downish son tamishlal goltai lesalshan east hop to nay. If you're giving anything to me, give it to me now, for I want to go home with the light of the moon, hop to nay. But in that we got a mention of animals being eaten, and a version from Ramsay is based very much round that idea, and a bit like the old lady that swallowed a fly. Joe Collister leads the way here, with Chloe Woolley and a host of children helping her out.
Hop to nay, hop to nay. Ginny the witch, she ate the horse, she ate the mane and the tail, of course. Hop to nay, hop to nay. Ginny the witch, she ate the cow, but how she ate it I don't know how. Hop to nay, hop to nay. Ginny the witch, she ate the sheep, she left the wool all in a heap. Hop to nay, hop to nay. Ginny the witch, she ate the hog, she ate the cat and she ate the dog. Hop to nay, hop to nay. Ginny the witch went into the house, she ate the ringy, she ate the mouse. Hop to nay, hop to nay. Ginny the witch shall soon be in view, and if you're not careful she'll eat you too. Hop to nay, hop to nay. Ginny the witch, she's in your house, give us a penny, we'll chase her out. Hop to nay, hop to nay. If you're gonna give us something, give us it soon, for we want to be home by the light of the moon. Hop to nay, hop to nay.
The version in Manx mentions making a broth and scalding the throat, but then it goes on later to an incident of cutting and wrapping things up. Well, this is Sue Woolley with the Hoptune Banag sung in Peel.
Hoptune, put in the pot. Hoptune, scold me trot. Hoptune, I met an old woman. Hoptune, she was baking bonnets. Hoptune, I asked for a bit. Hoptune, she gave me a bit as big as my big toe. Hoptune, she dipped it in milk. Hoptune, she wrapped it in silk. Hoptune, tra-la-lay. Ginny the witch went over the house to catch a stick to lather the mouse. Hoptune, tra-la-lay. If you don't give us something, we'll run away with the light of the moon.
And as we've heard, Ginny the Witch goes everywhere these days, and this is a version that's certainly sung around the Douglas area. This is Joe Collister with Chloe Woolley and the youngsters again.
Hoptune, me mother's gone away and she won't be back until the morning. Ginny the witch flew over the house to fetch a stick to lather the mouse. Hoptune, me mother's gone away and she won't be back until the morning.
Just 3 of the variations of the Hoptune Banag are sung in different parts of the island.
We're going forsley dan ag John Kelly son foglior ons 3 tjengechen, Jeranish, Albanish as Mananish, ta Kelly's crew me kiaun an aspich Wilson as an aspich Hildersley. Va gred rau adsen graiach Hilk Vanninach as an slive a lorty. Och doet ad nis, de rau an daenog, trev ad rechach an dees an Weibelsigilk, de beach sly able immer de yenu g, mar came de gen tusjem kiaun a verl nis. Doorte de rau an daenege ons kermach foglior mar shen nis. De Archibald Crugine scrunius mar gon forsley sa foglior ege, nach beach e curliatramus manani a giri ginsacha burlnius, de jaru scrue de beach e cunadau. As early as 1763, Bishop Mark Hildersley writes to the Reverend Philip Moore, the general editor of the Manx Bible translation, about the work that was being done. If I were not fraught with full conviction of its utility, and with resolution to pursue my undertaking, what with the coolness of its reception by some, and the actual disapprobation of it by others, I should be so discouraged as to give it up. This, I believe, is the only country in the world that is ashamed of, and even inclined to extirpate, if it could, its own native tongue. Fortunately, in more recent years, that attitude has changed radically, with many more people embracing the Manx language. So much so that for some years now, there's been an annual celebration of it, and here to tell us more about it is An Grenada, Culture Vannin's Manx Language Development Officer, Ruth Keggin Gell. We'll remind you of the Thursday evening events in Shiaght Laa next time as well, but they're here so as to give you a bit of advance notice. Let's join Ruth now.
The Cooish was established back in 1995 as Shiaght Laa, and that just means Manx Language Festival. I actually found a full programme for 1995 back in the archives, so that was very exciting. So it's been going for a long time now, but in the early 2000s it was renamed as Cooish, and Cooish has lots of different meanings. It can be a cosy gathering, say, oh, let's have a little Cooish. It can also mean a subject or a matter or a cause, and so it's got lots of different meanings, and it's also very, very pronounceable even for people who haven't really maybe spoken much Manx before. So it's a good word all round, and really it's an annual celebration of Manx, and it's a way of getting people involved in Manx who maybe haven't been beforehand, to inspire them and to get them stuck in and see that the community is very welcoming to anybody who would like to get involved, but also any level of Manx speaker, right through from beginners to fluent speakers. It's a way of fully invigorating them, getting the community together and really celebrating all things Manx and creating an opportunity, lots of opportunities where you can speak Manx all the time and really feel very thriving, excited about it. So there's lots of events. They're all organised from across the community, so I pull it together, but very much it's organisations and individuals who put on events as well, without whom this wouldn't happen. It'll be running from 6th to the 10th of November, so that's a Wednesday, 6th, right until the Sunday the 10th, and there's things from the morning of the Wednesday right until the evening of the Sunday.
And you mentioned it's a collaborative effort, so who all's involved in it?
There are quite a few different organisations who have put on things. So if I go alphabetically, we've got Culture Vannin, for whom I work. We've got a few different events going on. We've got Vannin Music, and Mini Musicians by Vannin Music is the branch, and they do early years classes, including Manx. Munjavega, the Manx educational charity that run a bilingual nursery and the Pothen Clay playgroups. Pothen Gilg, and that's the QE2 High School's after school Manx club, which is led by one of the teachers from the Skimmy Gilgach, the Manx language unit from Department of Education, Sport and Culture. Pothen Rodensy Gilgach, which is the Manx research group, who are part of Inchesig Gilgach, who are the Manx Language Society. Tantaran, which is Paul Salmon's group up in the north of the island. Of course, Inchesig Gilgach, who I mentioned before as well, the longest running Manx language charity and the largest publisher of Manx books. And An Chroniacht Celtic Gathering, who have an annual festival every July, but also run outreach things during the year. So they're all the organisations, but there are also lots of individuals who haven't necessarily been named in the programme just purely because of space. At least they have been named, but in the actual events they've been named as the hosts, but on the sort of event organiser page it's mainly the organisations, just to explain who they are, because of course there's lots of different organisations working for Manx, and it just helps maybe demystify some of them for some people who haven't come across them before. So some of the individuals as well, really, really thankful for them to putting things on as well. So anybody who wants to put anything on can absolutely do so. So if you've got any ideas for 2025, please do get in touch. You can email me at gilg@culturevannin.im or manxlanguage@culturevannin.im. And yes, let's have a chat.
Now, you've been referring for some of this information to a programme. Now, where will people be able to get hold of a copy of it?
Programmes are available around the island, places like libraries and community centres, and keep an eye out for a lovely 16-page programme. So it's 8 pages in Manx and 8 pages in English. So it's a fully bilingual programme. You just flip it to which side you want to read. And you can find information on all the different events, who's hosting them, where they are, whether they've got any cost associated, and actually Most of the events are free of charge. Of course, they have a cost to put on, but we've made them free to the community. And there aren't that many that you have to pay for. So there's lots of things that you can get involved in, regardless of your budget, actually, and lots of learning opportunities too. You can also find it online. You can find it at learnmanx.com/Cooish, Cooish. And the whole programme is available online as well as being physically available too.
So perhaps we could have a look at some of the events that are in the programme then.
Absolutely. So starting on the Wednesday, we've got a few different options here. You've got a come and try Manx session in the morning, 10 till 11 in Russian Heritage Trust Centre. And that just really for absolute beginners to learn things like greetings and introductions, to talk about how you are, to ask for and offer refreshments. And then we've got a cosy lunchtime Cooish, which is really an opportunity to grab a bit of lunch at 12 o'clock and have a chat with other Manx speakers. And that's in Atrium in the Tower House in Douglas, so 12 till 1. At 6 till 7 in the evening, there's the Ned Madrill lecture. So in more recent years, the Ned Madrill lecture became where you'd have someone working for a minority language who would talk about the work that they're doing. But I think it was maybe established to be a lecture in English, but about Manx topics. So that's what I think Pothan Ronzi Gilgach, who the Manx Language Research Group would like to take it back to as well. So this particular lecture will be Professor Max Wheeler, who's talking about Thomas Christian's Pagus Calch, and he's talking about how it's a Manx masterpiece. So it gives a fresh appraisal of the Manx retelling of Milton's epic poem, and that's Paradise Lost. So that's at 6 till 7 in the Eye Museum in Douglas. And then at 6:30 until 8 o'clock, something very different. We've got a family games night in Peel at the Black Dog Pizza Oven. And that's just on the harbour. Go and find it. It's lovely. And they have some food available to purchase from 6 o'clock, but the actual games will get going at 6:30. And the night has been designed for young people by young people. So it's the After School Club, Manx Club at Kiwi 2 High School who've designed the games. And so families can come along, but just children must be accompanied by a responsible adult. But it's free to go to that. And then at 8 o'clock that evening on the Wednesday is some Manx conversation, and that's at the Woodbourne pub in Douglas.
So that's a packed start to the programme. And so on to the second day of the Cooish, Thursday the 7th.
On Thursday the 7th, there's quite a few learning opportunities, in fact. So we've got some open Manx lessons. So 9:15 until 10 at Green's Cafe. You can do some useful Manx phrases. So I've decided to focus on Bavaliat and Bavaliam in this context because it's really useful to know at the Cooish, because there's lots of opportunities where you're going to ask, would you like a cup of tea? And say, yes, I would like a cup of tea, or no, I would like a cup of coffee. So I figured that was a useful thing, and that's free to go to. But just email if you'd like to come, because there's limited space, gilg@culturevannin.im. And at 11 o'clock until 11:45, we're going to do fun with numbers, which some of my colleagues said, numbers are not fun. How are you going to make them fun, Ruth? Well, I think bingo and things like that can make it fun. And numbers are really useful in Manx. So it's very, very suitable for all levels, really. So even if you are not totally sure about numbers or have never done them before, just come along. And so that's also at Green's. And at lunchtime, 12 till 1, there's a cosy lunchtime Cooish. And again, that's like the day before. It's come together for some food, buy some food or a drink or whatever you want, and come along for some colortus, come for some conversation. And again, just let us know if you can come to that, because it'll be in there, Green's Cafe St John's. And there's obviously, we need to make sure we've got enough space. So gilg@culturevannin.im by the 4th of November, if you could let us know. And then in the evening at 7 o'clock until 9 o'clock, there'll be a games night. And that's easy, fun games in Manx. And again, suitable for all levels, whether people have done any Manx or not. I'm going to make it very accessible. And that's £2 per person. And that'll include some tea and biscuits. And that is in Port Erin Methodist Hall on Station Road. And then the very last thing on that Thursday is some lovely Manx conversation, and Bridget Kermode will be hosting that at the White House pub in Peel from 8 o'clock onwards.
And although it's jumping ahead a bit, we ought to perhaps mention now that you can buy tickets for a concert that's going to take place on Friday evening, the 8th of November, and that will feature Gaelic singer Joy Dunlop, and she's going to be accompanied by Ron Jappy.
Absolutely. Joy is well known as a BBC presenter for BBC Alapa and also is a wonderful Scottish Gaelic singer. And Ron Jappy people will perhaps know because he plays in a duo with Rachel Hare, and so the other R&R combo. Of course, I play with Rachel as well, Rachel and Ruth. And Rachel and Ron, she only plays with people whose name begin with an R, she says. So that will be a lovely night, and we'll have Manx Gaelic Choir Unchare in support, and the premiere of something quite exciting as well at the start. And you can find tickets for that at unchrineach.com or celticgathering.com. It's £12.50 for adults, £5 for under 16s.
Good morning.
Oh, say they good morning.
Yn Grenida, Culture Vannin's Manx Language Development Officer, Ruth Keggin Gell, and the Cooish Manx Language Festival starting next Wednesday morning, the 6th of November. And we heard Ruth telling us there about Wednesday and Thursday. But you can also buy tickets for the concert with Joy Dunlop and Ron Jappy on Friday the 8th, which we'll remind you of next time, and which will be taking place from 7:30 in the Peel Centenary Centre. Which brings us to the end of Shiaght Laa this evening. Shene, Ocean Kermach, J. Shiaght Laa Fasta June, Aspe mit Kurju, Tulio, McKeown and Cooish, Erdelia Nagilga, and Shiaght Laa na Hirt. More about the Cooish in Shiaght Laa next time. But now, from me, Ach Nish Bohm, Fiona McCardle, Sledden you.